A man has been arrested in the 2017 killings of Abigail Williams and Liberty German in Delphi, Indiana. Richard M. Allen of Delphi was arrested on 2 counts of murder and is being held without bond. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the True Crime Squad. This is Katie Weaver. I'm here with my sister, co host, and partner in crime, Kristi Brower. Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
Going good. I mean, the true crime world is all aflutter this morning, of course.
Right? Whoo!
Big doings here. So we're,
I know. Are
and
they
in fact,
finally going to get some justice in Delphi, Indiana, huh?
I think so. Well, and so we had put our broadcast off this morning until after the press conference so that we could give a truer and fuller report. So that's what we've done. So we're coming to you a little bit late for a Monday, but that's why. But it is our Monday episode. And then, of course, we have good stuff coming tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, case updates live Wednesday night. So
Hmm.
tons more to come. It's also Halloween. So happy Halloween.
Right? Look at us not even dressed up.
I know.
We
Yeah,
will be later, though.
we will. We're going to a witch's market. We're going to tear it up.
We are. It's going to be
Mhm.
awesome.
I thought about it and then I'm like, no, we're reporting on this big case. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're going to be super sensitive and not do that because
that's what I thought too. It might not.
somebody'd come after us. I know that.
Yeah. I mean, we never have terrible intention ever, but
No.
you never know how things might come off to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
So,
already get razzed for being a little too uh jokey
hmm
for the true crime world, but we just think you need that to survive it.
hmm yeah, most definitely. But we are really excited to report this case this morning. So we're not going to do additional segments because this case really stands alone. So we're going to just head right into it. So, as you know, this case has been talked about a billion times.
Oh yeah.
The Delphi murders happened in 2017. Abby and Libby had been dropped off at an abandoned railroad bridge that with a walking trail that a lot of people walked on. It
Yeah,
wasn't
pretty
a
commonplace,
yeah.
sounded like.
One of their parents dropped them off, and they were supposed to go on a walk and then be ready to come home in a few hours.
Yeah.
Only that didn't happen because they didn't show back up, and there was an extensive manhunt for them that resulted the next day in their bodies being found not far from the bridge, about a half a
Yeah.
mile. And at that point, the Delphi police got very quiet and very loud. I mean, they got very quiet about the crime scene. There have been details of this event that have never been shared with the public in,
Many.
yeah, many in attempts to, preserve the case and the crime scene. There have been multiple suspects over the years. The man who owned the land, the farmer who has since passed away, there was talk back in January that perhaps he was a suspect.
Mhm. Well, that they did like search his house
Oh, yeah.
and look into him pretty heavily right after.
They
But
did, but didn't really, come up with enough to charge him with anything. And then, of course, we know the Anthony Shots account.
Keegan
That,
Klein.
Keegan Klein, and Keegan Klein, of course, is headed to prison on all kinds of
He's so disgusting.
child porn stuff and
Yeah.
ugh, very gross. But they still hadn't been able to quite tie him to the murders, though he did have a connection to one of the girls. And then, out of the blue, last week, the police searched a property that belongs to a man in Delphi that doesn't live very far from that bridge. And nobody really knew what that was about until he was arrested and has now been charged with 2 counts of murder. His name is Richard Allen, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about him. But first, I think this is probably a good time to just go ahead and watch the press conference. It's 12 minutes long. I felt like this was one that was worth playing, worth sharing.
For sure.
So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a screen here, and we'll go.
Right here. Pulling in today, I wasn't really sure what emotion I would experience. But peace came over me. And I didn't expect that to happen. And I hope all of you, with all the different responsibilities you have from around the planet today, have felt some of that as well. But remember, we're not done. I think what we all have experienced proves that together there's nothing we cannot do. But more importantly, giving of ourselves, all of us, giving of ourselves matters more than what we could ever receive. Abby and Libby, though in death, have had a profound effect on so many of us, on how we live, and as importantly, who we all should be. I would now like to introduce to you my friend and the Carroll County Sheriff, Tom Ledsaby, for his remarks. Sheriff.
I believe in a God of justice and righteousness. Today, I believe that same God has provided us with justice for Abby and Libby. As Sheriff of Carroll County, Indiana, I want to publicly and sincerely thank each individual who played a role in helping us during this 5.5-year investigation. Whether it was in an investigative capacity, providing tips, cards or letters of suggestions or encouragement, phone calls, and thousands of other countless ways of communicating. I earnestly thank those who prayed for this moment in time. We now move forward through the Indiana criminal justice system, allowing the system to provide its due diligence and process in providing that justice which is owed Abby and Libby, their families, and this community. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Nicholas McClellan. I'm the Carroll County prosecutor. And before we get started, I want to reiterate some of the things that Sheriff Lesenby and Superintendent Carter stated. I first want to thank both of them. They've been a great support to my office throughout this investigation. They've always been there for a phone call and always been willing to help a hand or a line of assistance to me and my office during this investigation. I want to thank the team behind me. This is the Homicide Task Force team that we've put together. Thank them and thank their families for being so understanding for the many nights they've worked away from their families, away from their children. There are many dates in a lifetime that you're going to remember. The date your children are born, the date you're married, the date you buy a first house, the date Abby and Libby went missing. One of those dates was last Friday, October 28, 2022. At that time, we had gathered evidence to formulate a PC that we submitted to the court, and the judge did find probable cause for an arrest of Richard Allen. He's been charged with 2 counts of murder for the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. This investigation is still very ongoing. We're keeping the tip line open, the tip email open. We encourage everybody to continue to call in tips, not only about Richard Allen, but about any other person that you may have. For that reason and for the nature of this case, the probable cause and the charging information has been sealed by the court. I've been very clear to everybody that per the court order, we cannot talk about the evidence that's in the probable cause or the evidence that's in the charging information. That will become evident to you at some point and it'll be released, but right now is not that day. Today's about Abby and Libby, focusing on them. Mr. Allen has had his initial hearing. He's entered a preliminary plea of not guilty. The matter's been set for a pretrial on January 13th at 9 a.m., 2023, and a trial date of March 20th, 2023 at 9 a.m. He is presumed innocent. We will have an opportunity and day in court when we can present the evidence that we have against him. But until that day, he is presumed innocent. I want to open it up to a few limited questions from the audience. But again, keep in mind, we are not going to talk about the evidence that we have in this case or about the charging information. We cannot. Those things have been sealed by the court. And so I want to open up a few questions.
Prosecutor, when did Richard Allen become a suspect? And do you think he acted alone?
Again, that's part of the investigation, so I'm not going to talk about those things. What I can say is that we have probable cause established by the court for his arrest, and he is in custody. He's being held currently without bond.
How long has he been a suspect?
I'm sorry? Again, that gets into the evidence we have of the investigation, and I know from everybody it's frustrating. I know everybody, not only reporters, but the family, everybody wants to know more information. I understand it's frustrating, but my goal is to maintain the integrity of this case.
How long the family followed up? Superintendent Carter, you had said that you believe that you had spoken to the suspect or the suspect's family 2 years ago. Is this man one of those people?
Again, I appreciate the question, but we're getting into the timeline of events, and today's not the time to do that.
Can you talk about how rare it is?
Family, I know you've had a lot of conversations with them. You were almost in tears pretty much when you started off this press conference. Can't imagine how emotional it is for everybody that's worked on this case. What was your conversation first like with the family, Matt, when you were able to tell them you finally got the suspect?
It was a very personal moment for me, and I think it was a very personal moment for them, for all of us that have had interaction with the family. We developed a relationship that I think is going to last at least one lifetime, and maybe a second. So it was a very, very, very sad yet a very humbling experience.
Superintendent, you asked for tips, detective work, there was a reward for $325,000. Did this all come together to make this nexus? Is that the combination of all three things that led us to this day, or is it one or the other?
Well, eventually you'll be able to see what led us to this day, but again, today's not that day. To include the reward, you mentioned that, Raphael, about the reward itself, and again, very premature for us to talk about that. There's still a tremendous amount of work to do.
What would you say that Abby and Libby have taught you in depth that we can remain to continue on with?
I think probably resilience and understanding the value of each and every day. That today was the day, but I didn't anticipate they ever thought today would be their day. And I feel like I've known for a long time. Excuse me?
Do you assume there's any other individuals involved in this case?
We haven't closed the door on the investigation. And so that's why we keep the tip line and the tip email open. And so we're not presuming anything at this point, but we're going to continue to take tips, continue to take any information anybody has. And as we've done with all the information we've gathered, we're going to look at that and examine that and see where it leads us.
You've asked the court based on this investigation that these documents should remain out of the public view. Can you explain, without getting into the details of what's in the documents, well, this is not regular. Usually a public hearing is held. We should be able to see all the documents, right?
Sure, sure.
You made a decision. Can you explain your decision as to why you believe that over the next 30 days, no one in this room should have access to those records?
Sure. It is unusual. We don't do it very often in all the cases that we handle here in Carroll County. We did it in this case because the investigation is still open. And while all cases are important, the nature of this case has some extra scrutiny with it. And so my office, felt it was important to seal those records. There will be a public hearing on whether or not those records are going to remain sealed or not. There'll be public notice for that hearing so that everyone can attend, but there will be a hearing to determine whether or not they're going to stay sealed. But for now, to me, it's about protecting the integrity of this case. I want to have an opportunity at some point to have an opportunity in court to explain the evidence and for that not to be tarnished or tainted or anything like that. Again, he's presumed innocent. And so it was important for me in this case to do that. Hold on just a minute. We're not going to comment on that right now as part of the investigation. Again, we just encourage everybody to continue to call in tips if they have them about anybody, and we'll examine those tips. That's a hard question to answer. It's a mixed emotions. I've been watching the news all weekend like everybody else has, and I think a lot of the members of the public said it right. It's bittersweet. It's a step in the right direction. It's concerning that he's a local guy. So I think just different emotions. Again, this is a step in the right direction. This is the first step into getting into court and having a trial. And so.
All right. That concludes our press conference today. Shortly, I will be releasing a press release that will have this photo and a couple more details that'll also be here for handout. That'll also be on the Indiana State Police Lafayette Post Facebook page. Right after this press conference, I'm going to send it out. There's also hard documents in the back. Thank you all for taking the time to be here today, and be safe as you travel home.
Wow.
And there you have it. Much ado about nothing-ish, but there's a big clue there. Tip
Yeah.
line open.
Tip line open. That
Keep
was
it
I was
coming.
hoping someone was going to ask, do
Mhm.
you think he had someone with him? Because remember those drawings? There are drawings from the time, people that were witnessed in the area, and there's an older man and there's a younger man.
Mhm.
And it's long been thought by those of us that are not really in the know that there were two men
Mhm.
involved in this.
Yep. They've got a lid on this because there's more coming.
Yes.
Also, he's just charged with 2 counts of murder.
Right.
There could be more than that coming.
For sure. For sure. There could be weapons charges. If he moved the bodies.
Kidnapping, solicitation. They are from a
Right.
different arrest warrant, right? I think for the Anthony Schatz guy. Or no, maybe not him. No, it must have been. I'm not sure.
Wasn't that
There
guy
was an.
before him? There's been so many.
Mhm. That one clue that was dropped in one of those was that the bodies were staged.
That's right. So tampering will probably show up in there.
There's tampering or abuse of a corpse. I mean, there's still so much to come here.
Yeah.
Now, obviously the prosecutor feels like there's some information that's bombastic enough here that he does not want the public to have it yet, because he's not ready for the public to have it yet, because there's more to come.
Right. Well, and what they said about there's a little extra scrutiny. A little.
And the look on his face, he kind of went,
Yeah. We all know what you're talking about, dude. That's why we're here talking about it right now.
The whole world is watching, without a doubt.
For sure.
The sobering fact, though, you guys have to understand, the population of Delphi is a little less than 3,000 people. And in 2017, when this happened, it was even less than that, around 2,800 people. I mean, we're talking about a very small place.
Where everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when we first covered this case that the locals were like, this had to be someone could come in from the outside. No
Mhm.
one that lives here would do this.
Mhm.
And that's
we
a
agreed
real,
with that.
yeah,
We agreed with that. Yeah.
there was there's a real pitfall in that. And
Mhm.
we see it all the time where we live because lots of little teeny towns where
Mhm.
people do not want to believe that someone in their community who they live around and know and talk to all the time or whatever could
Mhm.
do something like this. But the reality is that that just isn't realistic
Mhm.
because people do these things everywhere.
Yep. Yep.
It sucks. That's got to suck. I wonder
Mhm.
if their families, the girls' families, I wonder if they know this guy or at least
Oh, they do.
familiar with him. They do. Okay.
They do. One of the more interesting things that I found in research here was a family member uh, on Facebook saying that when the girls died, she and some other family members were in CVS where Richard worked
Hmm.
to get some pictures for their service printed,
Oh, wow.
and he gave them to them and didn't charge them.
Oh, my God. Oh, that has got to just be a gut punch for them. Holy hell.
There's also family saying that he was around at press conferences and things. Like he's been around the whole time.
I wonder how long police have had him as a suspect.
Good question.
Well, they're sure not going to say. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I doubt we ever actually learn that for sure. But yes, that he's been around. He's been around, just lurking around this whole thing, watching these people suffer, watching
God,
all of the stuff that's happened here. He's
what a
been
psychopath to do
present.
this to those families and then watch this because there are vigils for these girls every year, and like this case gets an update in the news every year, if not more frequently, by the
Mhm.
police. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
wow, what a psychopath.
yeah. So I did want to share a few things that we know about him. There's not a lot to know. There
Doesn't seem
really
like
will
it.
be, but he's married. He has a daughter who looks very much like Libby. It's weird. Uh,
Really?
his wife had shared a picture of her on Facebook that was taken on that bridge.
Oh my God,
It's chilling. But
that
this is
is
a really
chilling.
interesting photo. She had shared this. His wife, really prolific Facebooker, and has shared tons of pictures and, information about their family and stuff over the years. It's kind of an interesting thing now. So this is a picture of them. She's a little blurred out. This is in a bar, but if you look behind him next to the cork board,
Hmm.
right next to it towards the top,
It's
what do
the
you see there?
sketch. It's one of the sketches. Oh my
Hmm.
God.
There's a picture. It's fairly blurry, but right behind his head, right freaking there.
I mean, only an incredibly narcissistic psychopath could live around all that and
Hmm.
just act like a normal person.
Hmm.
Because that sketch was everywhere.
Right. Well, here's the picture on the bridge
Yeah.
and the picture of the suspect.
Uh-huh.
And then here's him. Not
Yeah.
exactly right, but it's pretty
No,
close.
but the
The nose
nose is
isn't
pretty
right.
close. But it's like, I don't know.
The one thing that gets me is the hat.
Yeah.
That's not a common hat.
Mm-mm.
I mean, most men wear some kind of a baseball cap of some shape or sort. This looks more like kind of a beret type hat.
Yeah,
Not everyone wears that hat.
that's true. I don't know. The eyes in that picture are totally wrong. They're
Yeah.
they're way farther apart than his are, and
Mhm.
they're angled in a different way. And
Mhm.
hmm.
Not quite right.
But the fact that tip line, yeah, they were giving us a message there. Whether
Mhm.
they, you know,
Yep.
I'm sure they realize it. But yeah, definitely that was.
Yeah. So here's a few things that we know about Richard Allen. He goes by Ricky Allen or Rick Allen. He lives in Delphi in Carroll County, Indiana. Locals say he's a regular at the Brick and Mortar Pub in Delphi. Before he moved to Delphi, he's lived in other parts of Indiana, including Greenwood, Mexico, and Peru. He worked at CVS.
That
Yes,
sounds so weird that those are all places in Indiana, not like he's lived in these other countries.
I
Anyway, sorry,
actually
that
had to
just really hit me.
I actually had to research it to make sure that was what I thought it was. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. He worked at CVS, which is a drugstore in Peru. That's where these women connected with him with those pictures. We also know that a year after the girls' death, he received his pharmacy tech license.
Mm,
That is chilling, in my
that
opinion,
is.
because how many crimes from healthcare workers have we covered in the past few years? Yet are using their station, and of course not to just demonize healthcare workers. 99% of them are
No, but when bad people
heroes
go
of
into
the day,
healthcare,
but
people die.
yes, exactly. So I think that's kind of scary and interesting, at least. Um, let's see. We know he was arrested on the 28th. We know that he pled not guilty, and we know that he has not been issued a bond. We also know that he was moved to a state facility for his safety.
That was my first thought, is that he's at high risk
Hmm.
of assassination,
Yeah.
whether he's in jail or not. I would think that they are very worried
Hmm.
about somebody trying to take him out before we can get the whole
Hmm.
story here.
Hmm. I would imagine that that's the what compelled the judge to not issue a bond and just hold on
Yeah.
to him is threats
Well,
of
and to
safety.
and to seal everything.
Hmm.
I get why the police want it, but I'll bet the judge also wanted that,
Hmm.
literally in protection of him, which sounds backwards, but it is how the justice system works,
Right, and like the prosecutor said repeatedly, he is innocent until proven guilty,
right?
and yeah, his safety is paramount at this point. Wouldn't it be what a slap in the face it would be
Oh man,
to the girls' families if something happened to him before they could get him prosecuted through the system?
it would be horrifying. This family certainly deserves to know what
Absolutely.
what really happened and who is this guy, and
Mhm.
that age old never answerable question of why.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep. Yep.
I'm so curious to know what was in the probable cause statement for the warrant to search his home.
Yeah.
Like something brought them to, and of course they
Mhm.
would not say at all, but very curious about what finally brought them to him.
We do know that they were digging near a fire pit at his home.
Okay.
A few things with the family. So Liberty's sister had tweeted, "Today's the day that police dug in a fire pit near his backyard."
So they knew what was going on.
They knew something was going on. They don't know everything.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And so this is Kelsey German. She's talked about this case a lot. She's been, really active with social media with sharing
Yeah,
things. And
really
this is
vocal.
Libby's sister.
Yeah.
So she tweeted on the 28th, "Just know how grateful I am for all of you. No comments for now. Any questions, please refer to the Carroll County Prosecutor's Office. There is tentatively a press conference Monday at 10 a.m. We will say more then. Today is the day."
It's got to feel at least some relief for them.
Hmm. Well, then Libby's grandma posted on Facebook. This is Becky. Pardon me, her grandma Becky.
Hmm.
"I guess I'm kind of at a loss. Every morning I get up, get my coffee, and start looking for which photo will be today is the day post. Now I sit here not needing to do it because at long last we have a face to go with our monster. I sit here wondering, now what? Where do I go from here? I realize our lives have made a big change. We have a very different path to start down. It is the path we will gladly face, as we know each step is taking one step closer to our monster being convicted. Knowing that makes the walk so much easier. I want to thank everyone who has supported and prayed for our girls daily for 5.5 years, who never gave up, who grew to love them. I know they are smiling down on the world today, knowing it is a bit safer. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine what is going on in their heads right now. Also, clearly they have been given limited information as well
Yeah.
for good reason.
Well, I mean, this is how it has to be in
Mhm.
these really high profile cases. And it's frustrating, but it is the best practice because they don't want to, the ultimate goal is to find and convict the perpetrator.
Mhm.
And we want that, you know?
Yeah.
Do you know if Alan had a criminal history?
I don't believe so, and I don't know that for sure, but the reason I say that is because of the pharmaceutical, license.
That's true.
He
That's
wouldn't have
true.
a
He
med
couldn't
license
have
if he had
had,
much of a history. Yep.
yeah.
He only lived 5 minutes from the bridge, so he easily could have been on foot,
Yeah.
which would explain why, there was no car
Yeah.
of
No
of
sign of a
suspicion.
vehicle.
He easily could have been walking and, more undetected than others because of that. I do wonder if his wife has had any wonderings or suspicions because of the
Right?
clothes.
Yeah. Did
One
it
thing that
seem familiar to her at all?
one thing that had been said in the past was that due to the enormous amount of blood lost by the victims, there's no way that the perpetrator wouldn't have had blood on their clothing.
Right, right.
Is that what they were digging for by the fire pit?
Is
Did he
it or a
bury
weapon?
his clothes? Right, or a weapon? Did he bury those things? Did he burn those things? That would be my thought. Also, he had took trophies. There were at
Right.
least 2 articles of clothing missing from the girls. They
Yeah.
figured that he took trophies. Is that what they were looking for? No?
Right. And that's some pretty specific intel
Mhm.
to dig by the fire pit. It
Yeah.
does make you wonder if the wife has finally put some things together.
Mhm.
I do really think that there's probably been a tip close to him
Mhm.
to have brought information like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
So, that's what we know. It's not a lot. People in their community are shocked. Everybody who knows him said he's a nice guy. I'm sure there are people who say he's not, but uh, by and large, what I'm finding is people really shocked.
Well, but you have to question what his family feels about him versus what the community, because guys like
Mhm.
this are super good at being nice and charismatic and
Mhm.
friendly and generous in public,
Yeah.
but they generally can't carry that all the way home.
Mhm.
So,
There's a weird connection here with 4chan
ooh,
that at some point in 2020 on a 4chan thread, somebody referred to the Delphi killer as Richard.
oh wow,
And then when people called them out on it, they were like, "Oh yeah, no, that was an autocorrect typo thing. I don't know who that person is." And now people are going back going, "Wait a damn minute. We've
yeah,
seen this name associated with this case before," which
right,
again leads me to think that there are more people involved here that perhaps haven't been picked up yet,
hmm.
but that there's more to this.
Well, you
I
think that
think
tip
that's
line's
very
going to be
strange.
on fire now that they have this guy, this name, this face. They're going to be people going, wait a minute, I remember something about, there's likely
Mhm.
going to be some actual usable information
Mhm.
with a name and a face.
Well, you know the video? The
Yeah.
video that the girls took on their phone with the guy that was telling them to get down the hill?
Hmm.
Did you know that video is actually 43 seconds long?
Yes, I remember hearing that, but we never got to see the whole thing.
No, there's only a short portion of it that was released to the public because,
Yeah,
again, the police have held quite a bit of information pretty close to the vest. And that's frustrated people that went, "You're not getting anywhere. You might as well release more of this information so that maybe the public will know more or, jog more memory." And maybe
right.
that's true at this point. This guy lived 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
He lived in a town of 3,000. Maybe if they would have released more, they would have solved this sooner. Maybe
I've
not.
always I've always wondered that. Like I get why they hold the information so tight, but I also think if they don't release anything, how can people who witnessed something that they didn't know what it meant at the time come forward?
Yeah, I know that really kind of jumps out at me, but
Mhm.
that's their choice, and they have worked ridiculously hard on this case. We know that too,
Mhm.
and that this has been an extremely challenging situation in Indiana. So, but it just does make you wonder. But at some point, we'll get to see that whole video, and I think that will
Mhm.
be really interesting.
Yes, it will.
Um, we also know that that video may be one of the things that helps seal this deal. You know,
Yeah, it could be. Now, I don't know.
yeah.
But how is he tied? What forensic evidence do they have? I mean, they must be pretty confident
Hmm.
to have arrested him, already charged him with murder, and held him without bond.
Hmm.
They've gotta have some good stuff.
I thought too. I mean, it's got to be good enough. I mean, on one hand, I'm sure the judge is trying to preserve his safety, but on the other, there would still have to be really compelling evidence for them to act the way they have.
Yeah.
Also, trial in March of 2023.
Are
Well,
you
that's 5
serious?
months away, which means that he did not waive his right to a speedy trial.
Yep.
Which and down the road, maybe he will. I mean, obviously, this is so brand new. It's
Mhm.
very possible that that date will change. They almost always do.
Yeah,
That
that
seems
seems real
so
fast.
fast. But of course, we're over here living in Daybell land where we don't go to court for 6 years. So,
Right,
we
right,
it's easy for us to say. I mean, I hope for the families that it really does come in March
right?
so
That
they
this
can
doesn't have
get
to
this
drag out.
behind them. Yeah.
They can move forward and not have to be drug out so far.
Hmm.
Yeah, I am curious about that though, because does Indiana have death penalty or is this just gonna be a
Mm,
first degree murder?
I don't know. I'll
Are
tell
you
you.
looking?
Yep.
Yeah, I had thought of that earlier. I was gonna look it up and I forgot. Um, I'm gonna guess maybe they're not a death penalty state on that speediness. That's a lot of times what slows it down.
They do. In Indiana, the
They
death
do.
penalty is available only for the crime of murder and is only available if the prosecution can prove the existence of pre-existing
Of
sorry, the existence of aggravating circumstances.
mhm.
This could be a death penalty case.
It could. However, can they prove first degree murder? Was this a crime of opportunity? I mean,
Or
did he literally plan to
premeditation.
kill these girls at this time? I
Well,
mean,
what does Indiana deem to be aggravating circumstances?
right. We'll have to learn some more about that
Maybe the fact that they're children?
because all they're saying is murder. They have not
Hmm.
said what degree.
Yeah.
And I'm questioning, is this going to be second degree because it was a crime of opportunity without planning? Because how would he know
Right.
that they were going to be there on that, to have planned it ahead of time?
Right.
Was it just
And
that day he went out to kill somebody?
unless he's associated with that Anthony Shots account.
And that's another question that I have because it was used
Hmm.
by multiple people we know.
Yep.
Does he have any connection to Keegan Klein or Keegan
Hmm.
Klein's dad, who we know also
Hmm.
used that account? Right.
Hmm.
There's a lot. I'm sure that the digital footprint is going to reveal a lot.
Hmm.
His digital footprint.
Yep.
Well, and the fact that he was mentioned in 4chan. I mean, who else would that be? I mean, how many Richards do you think were suspects in this case?
Right.
There have been a lot of suspects in this case, but
But
the likelihood that it was a different guy,
hmm
not very likely.
right. So we don't know. We just don't know. We'll keep watching it. Obviously, we're never going to quit talking about this case till this guy is in prison for good.
For sure.
So we'll keep you posted. But that's what we've got. So this is our Monday episode. We'll be back Tuesday for a brand new episode, Wednesday for a brand new episode, Wednesday night for case updates. So there's
Yeah.
lots going on. If you are a patron, we released 2 new Patreons last week. So be sure you check
Yes.
those out. Lots of good stuff there. And as always, thanks for being here. Like, share, follow, do your thing. We appreciate you guys a lot. This has been yet another production of the True Crime Squad.
Bye, everybody.